Hi guys, how you doing? This is Lead Freedom Marine, and welcome to the LFR report, short for the Lead Freedom Marine report. Hey, today I wanted to talk a little bit about the commemoration of 9/11, um, and kind of my memories of that day. Uh, it was obviously 19 years ago. I On that particular day, I believe I was working as a finance manager at a car dealership during that time. And I remember waking up in the morning and seeing my cousin um, watching the news. And at that time, at that point, it was reported that an airplane had hit one of the towers at the World Trade Center. So no one really thought it was terrorism at that moment. Um, I just thought it was something kind of peculiar. Maybe somebody lost control of a plane, or that it was a small plane, but there really wasn't a lot of information. But I remember watching the screen the moment the second plane hit the second tower. And I remember taking a second to really, really take that in, like almost like, could I even believe that I just saw what I saw? It was like watching a movie, you know, um, but you were watching real life. You literally were watching people die in front of you. And that's what the moment that I realized we're under attack. Um, I remember how I felt. I mean, I can't remember too much about what I did, but I remember how I felt. And even though I spent 6 years in the Marine Corps, at that point, I wasn't that patriotic. I love the Corps, don't get me wrong, I love my country, but prior to that, I saw a lot of flaws in our nation. And I kind of centered on those flaws most of my early adult life. I was somewhat, like I said in some of my other videos, somewhat of a social justice warrior. But I think on that day, I truly became patriotic. The Star Spangled Banner meant much more to me that day. Not that it didn't before, but on that day it meant much more to me. The liberties that we enjoy, the rights that we have in this country meant much more to me that day. And maybe at that point I really wasn't all that political. And like I said, I was definitely left leaning. But on that day, I think was the first day and the start of my transformation. That's the day that I started to see the world in a different light. I started to see my nation in a different light. I started to see my people in a different light. Race didn't matter to me so much anymore. Now it was just about being American. Because for the first time I saw that there were people attacking us not because we were necessarily at war with them, not because they were the enemy per se, but because they attacked our way of life. The very fact that we live our lives the way we do is the reason why we were attacked. Now, there may be those that say, oh, it's because of our involvement in the Middle East, our attack on people, our culture over there. But we had never been hit before prior to this. Not really. And that's something that people used to say all the time. Well, we've never had a terrorist attack on U.S. soil. Not from a foreign entity, anyway. Well, that's when all that changed on that day. Then we started hearing about Flight 93 and how that had gone down with everybody on board. Not sure where, not sure what's going on. Then all the airplanes were grounded, and we didn't have any flights in the air because no one knew what was going on. What was going to be hit next? Then we hear about the Pentagon being hit. It just seemed like it was getting worse and worse throughout the day. And then the feeling started to sink in. How many more planes, how many more bombs, how many more attacks are we going to have today? Or maybe tomorrow? No one really knew. All you could think about was that someone attacked us. Unprovoked. Now I know there will be those that will debate that, and that's okay. There will be those that say that we had it coming, and that's okay too. All I know is for me that day is when I realized it was us against them. It was our way of life versus their way of life. And I realized on that day, well, at least soon after that our way of life sometimes shouldn't be forced on others. Just because I want liberty for everyone doesn't mean everybody really wants our style of liberty. Not everybody wants our way of life. Now, I stood on the wall as a Marine, protecting our way of life, protecting our country and each other. And I gave serious thought to rejoining up. Serious thought. I had a fellow Marine that was living with me at the time that we were in the Marine Corps together. He too gave serious thought to joining back up and joining the fight. But for whatever reason, for neither one of us, that was not our destiny. Perhaps some greater power had different plans for us. But that was when we essentially started this war that we've been fighting ever since. And at the time, I was probably a bit more of a war hawk. I mean, I was angry. I wanted to take those people out, all of them, for what they did. But you know, looking back, yes, they attacked us. And I still feel that those 3,000 plus people didn't deserve to die. They were innocent. Sure, there will be those that will debate that, as sick as that may sound, but there are those that will do that. But I'll never forget how I felt on that day. You know, some of the old timers when I was growing up used to talk about Pearl Harbor and how that felt. And how that changed them and changed the nation. Well, 9/11 was our Pearl Harbor. Because it certainly changed me and it changed this nation. People got patriotic. People realized that we needed each other. And even though we have tremendous disagreements, our country has tremendous warts in its history, tremendous warts today, and we still fight some of those same battles today. But on this day, 9/11, 2020, 19 years after a day that will live in infamy. It's hard to believe it's been 19 years. I remember that day. And I remember how we came together. And I believe we can do that again. I hope we can look back today and learn the lessons of how fragile our liberties are. And though I believe we do have enemies, more domestic than foreign today, I still have hope that our republic can survive. Just like I had hope on that day in 9/11, back 19 years ago. But today, like I said, I remember them. I remember that day. And hope you remember them too. Because we cannot forget the past, no matter how much some want to erase it, because we can learn from the past. We can learn from what happened on this day 19 years ago. And hopefully, you can remember how you felt that day if you were around. And if you weren't, or if you were too young to remember, I encourage you to ask people how they felt on that day. Now, you'll get a myriad of answers. Some may not care. Some may have negative responses to your query. But I think most people are going to be like me. Because on that day, I remembered how lucky I was to be an American. I hope you remember that today, how lucky you are to be here. See, if you watch my other videos, you guys realize that I'm not from here. I came here as an immigrant many years ago, and my mother's family followed us because they understand what I didn't understand the day before 9/11, how lucky we are. And how we need to stand up to those that are against us. And how we need to preserve our liberty for future generations. I hope you remember today what it felt like on September 11th, 2001. And I want you to think about what is going on today in our lives. And hopefully you find the courage to stand up for this country, warts and all, problems and all. Because even though we have those warts, this is still the greatest nation on earth. And we all are truly lucky to be here. Alright guys, thank you very much. This is Let Freedom Ring. I'm out, and I'll be talking to you soon.